Parable of the Heir Part 2. The fall Miami was a fever dream, humid, glittering, and full of beautiful lies. For the first few months, Thiago Almeida lived inside that illusion. The inheritance money, once converted to dollars, seemed endless. He rented a luxury apartment in Brickell with floor-to-ceiling ocean views, decorated by an interior designer he met at a rooftop party in Wynwood. Everything was bright, modern, and free of the history he was trying to outrun. Exactly the life he believed he deserved. The exclusive crypto fund was called Aurum Digital Holdings. Their office occupied an entire floor of a glass high-rise overlooking Biscayne Bay. The founder, an American named Richard Van Stellevangelist's smile, spray-tan confidence, and a Patek Philippe that screamed money welcomed Thiago like he was already royalty. "Thiago, my man. The future belongs to the bold," Richard boomed, throwing an arm around him as massive LED screens showed charts skyrocketing toward infinity. "You're not just investing, you're stepping into the new digital elite." Thiago felt like a genius. While his father spent his days covered in dust at construction sites, and his brother buried himself in budgets and blueprints, Thiago stood at the cutting edge, where fortune came from charm, guts, and code. The recruiter commissions were generous, obscenely so. He started with wealthy Brazilians living around Aventura and Sunny Isles, kids with trust funds and parents who didn't ask enough questions. Each new investor fed both his ego and his bank account. The parties were legendary. Champagne towers, weekends on yachts sailing from Key Biscayne, influencers everywhere. His Instagram became a temple of excess. Hashtag King Life, hashtag Blessed, hashtag Future is now. Once a week, he called home. "I'm killing it, Dad." Yeah, I'm being responsible. "Love you, Mom." Eduardo listened to his son's upbeat voice with a growing sense of dread. Thiago didn't sound like a young businessman, he sounded like a gambler on a lucky streak. Laura always pressed for details. Thiago dodged with jokes. Lucas stayed silent, swallowing the secret locked inside his desk drawer of the emails. The forged documents, the reports proving Aurum Digital was nothing but a Ponzi scheme dressed in blockchain buzzwords. And Thiago wasn't just a victim, he was one of the recruiters. Lucas lived in quiet torment. Tell his father and he would break him. Keep the secret, and more people, maybe even their own family, could be dragged into Thiago's disaster. So he carried the burden alone. Winter came to Miami, not snow, but a damp chillin brought trouble with it. A major investor Richard often bragged about, a Middle Eastern billionaire, suddenly pulled out. With less new money coming in, the whole scheme began to wobble. Payouts slowed, promises stretched thinner and thinner. Richard called a leadership meeting. Thiago sat at the table, palms sweaty, stomach twisted. "Temporary setback, boys," Richard announced, smile painfully tight. "The market's adjusting. What we need now is hustle. Whoever brings in the most capital this quarter wins a Ferrari." For the first time, Thiago felt genuine fear. Everything his Brickell apartment, the parties, the designer lifestyle, depended on the scheme staying alive. He made desperate calls, pushing lies he barely believed anymore, promised impossible returns. He reached out to old contacts from Brazil, from college, from his party circles. But people were cautious now, suspicious. Meanwhile, Thiago's entire personal investment was trapped inside Aurum, accruing returns that didn't really exist. Pressure closed around him like a vice. He drank more not to celebrate, but to sleep. His nights were filled with nightmares of angry investors and plunging charts. His reflection in the mirror grew thinner, more hollow. The wallet he once flaunted now held mostly receipts, not money. On a Monday morning, Thiago arrived at the Aurum office to find the doors locked. A bright orange eviction notice hung on the glass. The furniture, the screens, even the lobby sculpture gone. Richard Vance and his partners had vanished in the night. Accounts offline. Phones dead. The Aurum website erased. Thiago stood frozen in the empty hallway, heart pounding so hard he felt sick. His crypto balances were near zero. The market, spooked by the collapse, had cratered overnight. He was ruined. Not just broke, dangerously broke, because the people he recruited, they wanted answers. Some wanted blood. Messages poured in. "Where's my money, Thiago? You and that American are finished. We know where you live." Thiago's fancy Brickell apartment was the first casualty. His lease was terminated. He left with 2 suitcases and no plan. He sold designer clothes online for a fraction of their value. He bounced between cheap motels and eventually ended up in a grimy hostel downtown, sharing a room with a man who muttered to himself and a college dropout who stole anything left unattended. His pride evaporated. Died during every $1 burger meal. Died every time an old party friend pretended not to see him. It died in the silence of his phone, which no longer buzzed with invites-only threats. The final breaking point came when he sold the last thing he had. His iPhone 14 Pro Max. A jittery teenager handed him $50 in crumpled bills in an alley. Sitting on the curb, Miami traffic roaring behind him, Thiago stared at his empty hands. Hands that had never built anything. Hands that only knew how to spend. He thought of his father's hands, scarred, calloused, strong. Hands that built a family. Hands that gave him everything. Hands he had repaid with betrayal. The hunger in his stomach couldn't compare to the ache in his soul. A memory surfaced: his mother, reading him the parable of the prodigal son from a kid's illustrated Bible. He always loved the adventure part, never the part where the son lost everything, never the part where he came to his senses. But now he understood. He was living it. Using the last of his money, Thiago paid for 30 minutes at a grimy internet cafe computer, typed slowly, painfully. Dear Mr. Eduardo Almeida, Dad, I messed up. Worse than you can imagine. I lost everything. Not just the money, you mom. Lucas, my dignity. I'm not asking for help. I just want you to know I'm alive. And I'm sorry I don't expect forgiveness. But someday you can send a message back, even a single word. It would mean more than I deserve. Thiago, he didn't dare write your son. He pressed send and walked out with nothing but hope. The email never reached Eduardo. Spam filter set up months earlier by Lucas to block suspicious domains sent it straight to junk. During routine cleanup, Lucas saw the sender, Thiago Almeida _tempat. Subject Dad. His blood froze. He opened it. Regret hit like a punch. Regret. Fear. Rock bottom honesty. For the first time, Thiago wasn't the arrogant, reckless brother. He was a broken man reaching for home. Lucas glanced at the locked drawer holding the evidence of Thiago's crimes. Now the burden was heavier than ever. Tell their father and bring hope, or hide the truth and protect him from heartbreak. Lucas saved the email into a hidden folder. He wasn't ready. Whatever storm Thiago brought back with him, legal, emotional, or both, was still out there, gathering strength. And when he finally returned, he would not be the same man who left. But the family would not be the same either. End of part 2. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel and receive more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching until the end.